So 0 to 60, here we go. 3, 2, 1. I can't deny I never get bored of that whirring sound as it's accelerating either. It just makes me smile. In September 2021, I was lucky enough to be given a Tesla Model 3 Standard Range Plus as a company car. And so now, 6 months and 9,000 miles later, I'm going to let you know what I think about it. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Now I should start with some context. The Tesla Model 3 was launched in the UK in June 2019, which means it's March 2022 now, so in just 3 months' time this car will be 3 years old in the UK. This particular model is a September 2020. So, what is there to like about it? First and foremost, the driving. I have to admit, now the Tesla is my first electric car, and I've got to say, I love driving electric cars. The experience of the mind-blowing acceleration, which I've got to admit, after 6 months, still not boring, but also the regenerative braking style of driving, so you can drive with one pedal, is just exceptional. Now, I've been out in other electric cars over the last couple of months, and I still think the Tesla is the one to beat. I really, really do. I think the interiors in the other cars are far more car-like, and if that's what you're after, cool. I love just how quirky this interior is. I just think it's brilliantly different. And it's funny, whenever anybody gets in it, they have that whole ooh kind of space age thing going on, which is which is fun. I really like it. It's just a cool place to be. Now, this particular Tesla, in terms of the experience, now this is the Standard Range Plus, so this is the slow one in the grand scheme of things. It's still really, really quick. I mean, it's massive performance. The Model 3 doesn't claim to be a sports car, but to be honest, it handles every bit as well as any sports car I've driven before. There's just something about, the rear-wheel drive element is fun, and make no mistake, the back end can be lively if you choose to let it, but it's just fun. It's low and it corners nice and sharply, and it's really reactive and responsive. I know reviewers, far more experienced car reviewers than me, talk about that maybe the steering lacks feedback. Yes, all right, I can't feel every single bump because it's all electric, but at the same time, I feel it's really responsive and a real pleasure to drive. One thing I definitely have learned, and again, this is another one that's common to electric cars, and I can only talk about my experiences in this car, is the difference the temperature makes, the ambient temperature, because when it's cold outside, your range, goodness me, it drops. I've had days where it's said 200 miles and I've gone out and it's been maybe like 1 degree outside, really cold, and that 200 miles, honestly, you can sometimes struggle to get 120, 130 miles out of it. So it does make a huge difference. So you have to plan accordingly with that. Obviously, that means you then rely on public chargers. And I can still tell you, after 6 months of using them, the Tesla superchargers are just brilliant. They are flawless. There's so many of them. And they charge the car really, really quickly. Billing's dead straightforward. Yes, it's not cheap, but to be fair, they're cheaper than a lot of these standard non-Tesla chargers that are out there these days, particularly with the cost of electricity at the moment. The cost of everything right now is through the roof. Thankfully, we are still on the Octopus Go electricity tariff at home, so we tend to charge this car at night at 5 pence per kilowatt, which is amazing, because I know if you try and get on that tariff now, I think it's 7.5 pence off peak and about 35p peak. So, the cost of everything is really high at the moment. So what do I not like about it? Because I think obviously I'm very gushy, just in case it isn't clear. I think this car's fantastic, and it is hands down the best car I've had. And I've had an A6 3-litre Avant, I've had a Q7, I've had several BMW 5 Series, I've had some nice cars over the years. But this thing is it's more fun to drive. I literally get excited every single time I drive a car, and I've never had that before 6 months in. But when it comes to the things that I don't like, there are some tweaks in here. Let's start with the obvious one that you've seen in lots of videos, so I'm not going to spend too much time on. From a build quality point of view, I don't think it's bad, but it's not great. Compared to the BMWs and Audis that I've had previously, their build quality is a different class to this. It just is. When you close the boot lid, for example, which I'll do now, that doesn't sound great. Now, admittedly, some of that is the number plate kind of rattling around, but it just doesn't have that same German clunk. But as I said, it's a minor thing, and it's not half as big a deal as people make out on some videos. The build quality is there. Do I have lots of panel gaps? No more than on any other car I've had, so I really wouldn't lose any sleep over that. I think it's a bit of a false anxiety, much like range anxiety. You know, if you're thinking about an electric car and you're watching an array of videos to think, should I, shouldn't I? Just do it. Honestly, just do it. Range anxiety is a myth. There are so many chargers out there, particularly if you're on motorways. You just don't need to worry about it. And if you're not on motorways, the chances are it's because you're doing local running, in which case, charge it at home. It's not a big deal. This whole not having a dashboard there, honestly, the mileage is the speed is just there. It's like 15 centimeters to the left. Is there any difference in my eyes looking down compared to looking down there? No, of course the bloody isn't. It's just changing habits. Honestly, anybody goes on about the fact that there isn't a dashboard hasn't spent any time in this car, because it's actually really good. It's quite advantageous being able to look up and have that uninterrupted view. I can virtually see the front of the car. It's a fantastic shaped vehicle. That's one of the things I must admit I loved when I first saw it, and I love even more the more time I spend with it. Anyway, sorry, I keep saying I'm going to talk about things I don't like and just end up talking about something I do, which is a review in itself. You should probably take some sort of message from that. But anyway, I hate this glossy black interior. I've got to admit, I can see why they've changed that interior. This new interior with the matte grey and the kind of felt phone chargers there is so much better than this. I don't like the software updates. Some of them are really good. I mean, some of the additions that have been made onto this are great. Let me check there's nobody behind me. So if I indicate left, for example, look, it turns on the camera on the side so that I can see to the left. So if there's any sort of cyclists or anything coming, so it's pretty cool. You know, if you pull say if you're in traffic lights, you can see anybody who maybe sneaks up on the left. It's not brilliant at night because that camera's near the indicator, so it kind of goes orange clear, which is a bit daft. But as a function, it's great. I love the big maps. Never got bored of any of those elements. But you used to have all the menu options along the bottom, and they were really good. They worked. It was simple, and now you have to go into another menu and choose which ones you want visible on the bottom. And I liked having all of them. You know, it just worked. It wasn't broken. It didn't need fixing. But the last thing to touch on is the little bit of the car that I managed to break. Now, it's not that I actually went out and did anything specific. I think I've just snagged something, and then over time it's just got progressively worse. Now, the underside of the car, I'll show you on the picture here, the underside of the car is essentially kind of clipped in, and this protective material is kind of like somewhere between, it's kind of like boot lining, so it's somewhere between carpet and cardboard. It's hard to describe. It doesn't feel particularly resilient or waterproof, but it's just a level of protection from between the road and the cabling, the batteries on the underside of the car. So at some point, the front left of my protective, whatever it is, has, I think, come loose, and then it's caught on maybe a speed bump or something similar, and then it's got progressively worse and torn and torn and torn, and so I've now ended up with this gaping hole underneath the car, and this trim that you can see me holding here, I had to cut off. I had to reach under with a Stanley knife and cut off, because I think it was just going to progressively keep tearing if I didn't take it off and at least kind of, nip it in the bud. So now, because this is a lease car, I've had to let them know, and they've registered it as an accident. They've put it down that I probably hit something on the motorway, despite me telling them I've no idea about how it happened. And so currently it's being assessed, and I've read on some of the Model 3 forums on Facebook that I think that piece of material is about £1,000 to replace. So we'll wait and see how that pans out. But if you are considering a Model 3, then be aware that maybe it's good every now and then just to check underneath and check that nothing's coming loose and everything is where it's meant to be, because you don't want to have things progressively falling off or tearing. So in conclusion, after 6 months driving around in this car, would I recommend it to people? Absolutely, and I have done countless times. Because this is now on a company car list, anybody who is at the point of having to choose a car, I would and have said to them, you should definitely get out in a Tesla Model 3 and just see how you feel about it. if you enjoy driving and you just want something that's a bit fun and a bit interesting, and you still, incredibly, you still pull up at, and the thing is, there's thousands of these on the roads now, but you still pull up at traffic lights, and if there's children crossing the road, they still point and go, ooh, Tesla, which is, it's kind of cool, I must admit. I quite like it. It's so for a common car that doesn't cost any more than, say, a middle range 3 Series, it still attracts loads of attention, and I don't mind admitting I quite like that. And that's it. Thanks so much for watching. If you did find the video useful or you enjoyed it, please hit the like button, and even better, hit the subscribe button. Nearly 600 of you have subscribed, and I'm so grateful. Thanks so much for your support. I'll keep making the content if you guys keep watching it. Hopefully I will see you, or you'll see me on the next video, and in the meantime, take care.